Hello, my name is Julie, and today I am going to be taking you on a tour of my series tracking spreadsheet. In the last couple of years, I have made a video specifically for my reading tracker spreadsheet, so the tracker of every single book I read in a year. This year, I didn't actually change that much from that spreadsheet, so I will still be listing that spreadsheet on Etsy, and my most recent video of it is going to be sufficient to cover all the things for that spreadsheet. But I have made an entirely new spreadsheet that I have worked on for long enough that I think is polished enough for me to share it with you all as well. So I'm making this video for 3 reasons. Number one, if you have been following my progress of getting my number of series down in the last several months, this is going to act as my stats for that. Number two, if you are someone who would like to make your own reader spreadsheet, you can use this as inspiration to build your own. Or number three, if you would like to have this spreadsheet yourself, or you are someone who has come from my Etsy page, this is a tour of what this product is that you can get on my Etsy. You can skip around if you want, but I'm going to introduce the spreadsheet and sort of my process behind it a little bit. So I've been a reader for a very long time. I primarily read fantasy, but I read a little bit of everything, and so I love series. Something I noticed in the last couple of years is that if I don't immediately say I'm abandoning a series, the series just sticks around for a long time in this pile of unfinished series, and I just never get to it. So in 2024, I realized this was an issue that I needed to actively tackle. So I started making a spreadsheet. I saw Meg with Books make her spreadsheet, and I was inspired by that to make something similar. And then what I wanted to do with it, I had to throw that entirely away. I do really enjoy seeing Meg's series stuff, but like that idea did not work for me because I like automating so much stuff and trying to get stats out of things. I mean, so much so that I think in 2025, I had 6 active book related spreadsheets that I was dealing with at any given time. In 2024, I realized I had to take accountability for this. I started making a spreadsheet that looks like what I'm going to show you, but I've built on it so much more to make it more visibly appealing and to add more stats from just the information that I put in. And in 2024, I worked hard to purposefully read more sequels in that back half of the year. And I actually didn't end up making basically any progress. I just made sure I didn't get worse. So in 2025, my major goal was to get my number of series down. The spreadsheet actually encouraged me so much more than just mentally just having it in the back of my mind that I needed to take care of this. It really helped me do the things that I needed to do to get the number of series down. So starting fewer series, yes, reading all of those sequels, but also DNFing a series that I knew that I didn't want to touch because I was constantly looking at this. I was tired of seeing those names on there, and I think it really helped me out. So this is something that I use personally, was genuinely very helpful for me, and I am just releasing it. So if it is going to help you, you can use it. And if you end up purchasing this, you can edit it to your heart's desire. If it doesn't do everything for you, just don't sell it as your own thing. So here is what the spreadsheet is going to look like when you open it up. I have a info how to use page. I have my social links at the top. I have a description of how to use the spreadsheet, what all the color coding means. I have a guide to what the different columns mean, and I have examples of inputting different series into the spreadsheet. But I'm going to be explaining that to you now, so we don't need to go through this. There are 4 total tabs in the spreadsheet. There's 5 right now because I have the information that I'm going to be pasting in. When you open the spreadsheet, you are going to be seeing a couple of examples of what things look like. But for the purposes of this video, I pasted in my 2025 series data, edited it to look like it was 2026. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. So this is the series sheet. This is what I spend most of my time looking at. And this is what I'm actually updating myself. There are the tables, which is not very neat or anything, but it controls all of the graphs of the graph page. So if you are not editing anything with this spreadsheet, you do not have to look at the tables section ever. But it takes the data from the series tab and makes it into the graphs for the graph tab. I'm going to show you how I look at my series. So the idea here is that every single series has a row. I personally like having the series that I read most recently at the top and the series that I have been waiting for the longest at the bottom, but you can do whatever you want. The idea here is I have color coded it everywhere so I can visually tell what is up with all of those different series. So when you input a new series, you put, I have the number of series because I use the filters and sorting so much on the spreadsheet. I wanted to make sure that I can keep them back in the order that I want them to be in. That's just for organization's sake. There's the series name. All of the spreadsheets that I make are on the basis of annual updates. So this is supposed to be everything that happens in 1 year. I am going to make a new spreadsheet when the new year starts. That's how I make my spreadsheets. You can edit this to be whatever you want, but that's just how I like visualizing things, because I can see how much progress I made in a year and start anew when I get to the new year. Then there are these first 3 columns right here are going to be numbers that are going to stay static unless something changes to your knowledge. So there's the books planned in the series. That is how many books the series should be when it is fully published. If this is like a series that has companion series, you can break it up in as many chunks as you want. You can do what you want. But there's some series that we don't know for sure. For example, The Devils. We don't know that it's going to be a trilogy, but that's a pretty good guess. However, The Empire Without End duology, I know for a fact that's going to be 2. So I might, in practicality, like highlight the ones that I don't know if they're actually going to be that length, but I do put in a number anyways. If not, there's going to be problems. Then there's the number that were published pre-2026. How many of these were published before the year started? So again, all of the stats you're going to see here are 2025 things that I've just copied into the 2026 page. So when I'm talking about this year, talking about 2025, etc. So for example, The Devils was a 2025 release. So there were none published before the year started, and I had read none before the year started, but one was published and I read one. So the next column is the number you had read before 2026. So for example, let's go down the Sansi trilogy. It is titled as a trilogy, so I know it's going to be 3 books. There was only 1 book that was published before this year. So the number here is 1, and I had read that 1 book previously. I read that last year. This year, there was 1 book published. So the next column is what you're mostly going to be touching. This is the red column. How many books did you read in the series during this year? For me, I have been trying to spread out the number of series that I'm reading. I'm trying to get as many down as possible. So most of these are just going to be 1. I have 1 series that I read 2 of. And then there is the published this year column. So that is going to be, if a book in the series publishes, that is going to up the number of books available for you to read. Then there are these 5 columns that are calculated for you. So you are not going to touch these columns. You are not going to type in these columns at all. There is the number you are behind publication. So for The Devils, I am caught up. For The Empire Without End, there is 1 book that is published that I have not read yet, so that's 1. Then publish versus plan. How many books behind the plan is the publication? So for The Devils, if it's going to be a trilogy, there's only 1 book out, so it is behind the publication by 2. But Empire Without End, all of the books are out, so that's 0. Then there is the pre-26 behind, so that is how many books were you behind in the series before the year started. For example, the Love Light Farm series, before the year, I had only read 2 of the books out of 4, so I was 2 behind publication. And the series progress, there was no books published in this series, and I read 1 this year, so that means my progress is net 1. I got 1 better. And then the last one is behind plan. So how far are you behind the final planned length for the series? So with all of these columns, we have figured out where you are, where publication is, and where planning is, and where all of those are relative to each other to make different stats that we're going to have in our graphs later. If you really wanted to, you can hide all of these columns if they're not going to mean anything to you. Hide any of these columns that you don't really care about. The ones that you're going to have to put information into, I would keep those available, but like anything that you're not going to be consistently writing into, you can hide. You know, right click and hide all of these, and it's not going to do anything to the stats. Look, I don't need to see those anymore. However, a filter that I really like using is clearing out all of the books that I am not behind on. So that's one that I would probably keep around. Then we have the year last read. This is a little bit complicated when it doesn't need to be. The purpose of this is for, at the beginning of the year, you're going to put in how long it's been since you read the book previously. So the oldest series, here's a series I haven't touched since 2015. Here's a series I haven't touched since 2022 at the beginning of the year. Blah, blah, blah. I haven't touched since last year. And then all of these series that I start in 2026 are going to get this 2026 label. Series that I continue on in 2026 that I started before 2026 are still going to keep this year last read number. It's going to keep the old year. We have a lot of things that are keeping track of what series we were touching in the past versus now. It is going to update other things that matter if you do put something into the red column, so it knows that you have now read the book in 2026. All good. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Then very easy, we have the genre. I have picked 6 categories. I have fantasy, science fiction, romantasy, romance, mystery, thriller, horror, and general fiction. Then there is the series type. This isn't super important, but I like looking at it. Is it a actual there is an order to be read series, or is it companions that you could kind of read in any order? Because for me, I tend to prioritize the books that I cannot forget what happened in the past versus the companion series I can kind of leave to the wayside while I'm working on getting down my series. Then there is the own next column. This is if you own the next book in the series. This is just a yes or a no, and it's going to help you with your color coding to see what books you should prioritize. And I will go through the color coding once I'm done with all these columns. Then we have the favorite status. For me, I wanted to see what series I actually like and which one of these maybe I shouldn't prioritize because I don't like them as much, or maybe highlight the series that I'm thinking about DNFing. So I have 5 categories here. Yes, they are a favorite. Maybe they will be a favorite series in the future. No, they're not a favorite, but I like them enough that I'm not planning on DNFing. DNF pos, or I might possibly DNF this series, and did DNF. So this is when I have decided to DNF a series, I will mark it as did DNF. And there's the last 2 columns that are going to be very important that you handle manually. There is the done columns. The only option here is nothing or finish. So once you have finished a series, you can click that finished button and it is going to update that you have finished the series. I don't have this done automatically for a couple reasons, but it's mostly just in case like there is questions of how long the series is and everything. So if you believe you have finished the series, go for it. Then there is the DNF column. So same thing, it only has one drop down option. Once you have decided that you are DNFing a series, you'll drop down and click that yes button, and it will change the color of the series. Boom, it's now gray. And because this is its own column, you can very easily sort out all of the series you've finished so you don't have to look at them anymore. You can sort out all the series that you DNF'd so you don't have to look at them anymore. And now you can only see the series that you're planning on continuing on in. And now you can also get rid of the series that you're caught up on. And now these are only the series that you are behind on, that you're planning on continuing. And the last column I have here is for notes. You can put any note you want about the book, like, oh, maybe this book is on sale. I want to buy this book physically. I want to get this from the library in audio. But what I use this column for is notes on the publication. I write down when month is going to come out, and then I update the spreadsheet for when the book is published. So now I can talk about the color coding for this. So the green series are series that I finished that year. The gray series are series that I DNF'd that year, whether they were a series that I started or continued or didn't even touch. Just a series that I decided not to continue on in this year. Blue means I am caught up on the series. There is not another book for me to read as of right now. And once you mark that a book is published in this series, it is going to change color, so it will no longer be caught up. Then there are a couple special ones. There is the purple, which I only have one of these right now. You are one away from publication, and you own the next book. That means this should be something you should prioritize to help get your numbers down, and you already own it, so why aren't you reading it? There is the pink, which means that you own the book, but you are more than one away from publication, so you could get something off of your TBR that you already own, but your numbers aren't going to be impacted as much. And then the yellows are books that you are one away from publication or finishing, but you do not own the book. Maybe you do want to own that, so that's something you can flag, or if you don't want to own the book, maybe that's something you need to check out from the library now and you can get it off of your list. I find this super duper helpful. One of the major factors that really kept me doing this spreadsheet was wanting to get as many blues and greens as physically possible. That helped me keep up with publications so much, as I was like, oh no, all of these books are getting published, all of the blues are going away, I need to get more blues on here. However, you might also see that the series that are longest If you're not prioritizing them, maybe that's a problem. So maybe you want to look at how many books are in the series and prioritize those longer series, whatever you want to do. I think that this has enough stats in there for you to be able to figure out what you want to prioritize and sort that out and look at those things more closely. So now we can look at the graphs. We have a couple of stats up here, and then I have a bunch of different groups of graphs. In my regular annual spreadsheet, I have this like separated out into different pages, but I think that there are few enough graphs here that it only needed to be on one page. If you want to like copy and paste these graphs onto different tabs themselves, you can do that. But we have the past series in progress. So how many series did you start the year with? Then there's the number of books and series you read this year, the number of unique series you read from this year. So I said there was only one series that I read twice, so it goes from 40 to 39. And the current number of series in progress. And as you can see, I read from more unique series in 2025 than I have current series in progress, which means I should be able to read from every single series that I'm currently behind on, no problem. Then we have the current series unread. I actually changed this from how I was doing it in 2025. In 2025, I just had series unread period, and that included series that I had ended up DNFing. But now it is only the current series that I'm in the middle of. How many of them did I not read from this year? Then there is the current number of series that I am behind on. So any of them that I am still reading, but I am not caught up to publication. And these might be ones that I want to prioritize. And then there is the number that I am currently in the middle of, that I am unread, that I have not read from this year, and I am behind on. So these are the books that I kind of have no excuse for not reading. And as you can see, this is a pretty good Venn diagram. So there are only 3 series that I had not read from this year because I was caught up. Then there is the total number of series on the sheet. So that is just the number of series you have put in. If you start any series this year and DNF any series or finish any series, you're not going to see that full number. So 64 is the total number of series on my spreadsheet. Then we have a bunch of just big, important annual graphs, so the big overall ones. My favorite thing to look at is the annual progress. So at the beginning of the year, I had that 53, and at the end of the year, I have that 36 or 35. And then you can see the breakdown of that number. So you can see the 28 I'm continuing on in are the same color on both sides. And then there is the 16 that I decided to DNF that were from my previous reads, the 9 that I finished from series that I started previously, and then the 8 that I started this year and have decided to continue on with. So this does not show the series that I started that I DNF this year because they don't actually count toward anything. There's the genre breakdown in 5 different categories. The 64 series on the spreadsheet, what are all their genres? Only the series that I'm currently in the middle of, what are their genres? Only the 53 series that I started the year with, what are their genres? Only the series that I started this year. And the last one is only the series that I read from in 2026. And something that I would like to note, each series is its own entry. So if you read multiple books in a series, it is not going to double up. It is not going to count Dungeon Crawler Carl twice for me. It's only going to count once. Then there is the read status. So of the 64 series that are on this spreadsheet, how many of them did I read in 2025? I read 39 of them, and there were 25 that I did not read from at all, whether I DNF them or not. Then there is all of those 64 series, and did I read them and did I DNF them? So 33 of them I read and I am continuing on or I finished them. 6 of them I read and decided to DNF. 12 I did not read from and I am planning on continuing or finishing. And 13 of them I did not read from and I'm DNFing. Then there is, what was my relationship to the series? There were 9 that I finished, 13 that I'm caught up on, there are 23 that I'm behind on, and there are 19 that I decided to DNF. Then we have my year last read. The lighter column here, the one that is on the right on all of these pairs, is this year, and the previous year is the darker color on the left. So you can see the progress that you made. Those darker columns have gone down into those lighter columns, and those are all of the books in series that I read from in 2026, moving them over from previous years. So I made a huge dent in some of these. Then there is the standing in series. So I read 11 first books in series, I read 19 sequels, and I read 9 conclusions. And there's the number I read in a series. So there are 25 series that I did not read from at all, 38 series I read 1 book from, and 1 series that I read 2 books from. Then there is the past series section. So this is just dealing with the 53 series minus the ones that I DNF'd. What is my read status with them? There were 9 of them that I did not read from that I'm still behind on. There are 3 that I did not read from because I am still caught up on them. There are 10 that I read and I'm still behind on, and there are 15 that I read from and I'm now caught up or I finished. So I want this first slice to be as small as possible at the end of the year, and the fact that it was less than 25%, I'm very, very happy with. Then there is, did the series have a 2026 installment? There were 17 series that were already completely published. There are 7 that did not have an installment this year, but they are not completed yet. And there are 13 that had an installment this year. Then there is my changing relationship with them. 14 of the series that I read from this year, I improved my standing on. I read more books than were published this year. Then there are 21 that I stayed the same, so I read the exact same amount as were published. So either one was published and I read one, or there were none published and I didn't read any. Then there were 2 that I became more behind. So I was already behind on the series and I became more behind. There is a section here that is not mentioned, that is not on here, that is became behind. So I made sure I read all of these series that I would have become behind on. So anything that I started caught up at the beginning of the year, I made sure I was caught up by the end of the year. Then I have read status, so I have it by year. Did I DNF the series? Did I read it and DNF it? Did I continue? Did I not read it at all? And am I caught up or behind? For this one, I have, did I DNF it, finish it, continue it, or am I on read? Then for current series, so this is no DNFs, no finishes, only series that I'm still in the middle of. We have the genres, I have mostly fantasy. Then we have the progress status, am I caught up on the series or am I behind? A little bit more than a third of those series I am caught up on, which is great. Then there's the ownership. There are 13 series that I'm caught up on, therefore I could not possibly own the next book. Then there's 21 that I do not own the next book, and 3 that I do. Then there is the publication status. Is the series that I'm in the middle of complete, or are there still more books to be published? There are 15 that are completed and 21 that are incomplete. The planned length of the series, to my knowledge, how long do I think it's going to be? You know, almost half of the series are trilogies, but we have a good amount of longer series, which is intimidating, but I do like a long series. There is the publication progress. How far off of the plan is the publication? So for duologies, there's only 2 options, either completed or 1 book off. For trilogies, you can see 8 of them are fully published. There are 4 that the last book has not been published, and 4 that the second book has not been published. And you can see that for the rest of these. Then we have the 2026 releases of these books that I'm still in the middle of. Did I read them? So as you can see here, I read 10 of the 2026 releases of the series I'm currently in the middle of, and I did not read 7 of them. Then we have my favorite status. 13 of them I do consider favorites. 12 I think maybe could be favorites. There are 11 that are not favorites, and there are 10 that I have not DNF'd yet, but I am considering it. So I like that this is actually, having all of these be an even spread feels very natural to me, and I would love to get these 2 down. There's the number of books I am off of publication. So 13 I'm caught up. 10 of them I'm 1 off. 8 of them I'm 2 off. 1 of them I'm 3 off. And there's 4 that I'm at least 4 off, which is scary. There's the read status by genre, which is the same one as before, but now dealing with the current series instead of my past series. There's the series type. Exactly 25% of the series that I'm in the middle of are companion series, so I don't have to prioritize them right now. Then there is the year last read. This is moving the series, if you have read them this year, into that 2026 category, differently than like anything with the past series deals with. And the last one in the section is the number I read from in 2026. So there were 9 that I did not read from in 2026, 23 that I did read 1, and 1 that I read 2. Then there is the series read from. So this is only dealing with the series that you read from, whether you DNF them or not. So this does include DNFs that you read from. So for me, that was those 39 series that we saw mentioned earlier. This is a copy of the graph that was at the top of it. It's literally identical. Just wanted to repeat it while you're looking at these stats. There were 8 series that I started and planning on continuing. There are 16 that I did continue on in and am planning on continuing on. There are 9 that I finished, and there are 6 that I DNF'd, whether I started them or continuing on in this year. This does not include any of the DNFs that I did not read from. Then there is the genres of the books that I read from this year, and you'll see that like the fantasy section is a little bit smaller. I was cleaning up a lot of the series that were not fantasy this year. There is the favorite status. This does include DNFs. 9 of them, yes, are favorites. 8 of them were maybes. 11 of them were no's. 6 of them were possible DNFs. And then there were 6 that I ended up that I did DNF them. Then there is the year last read plus new series. All of the things in the 2026 column here are new series this year. And then the year last read beyond that. So I read all of these books. So I read 16 books that I last read in 2025. I read 10 books that I last read in 2024. Then there is the series type. Then there is the behind status. 20 of the series that I read from this year I am still behind on. 10 of them I'm caught up on, and 9 of them I finished. Then there is the series that I started this year. And it does include series that I read multiple times this year, as long as this was the first year that I read them. So there is the genre. I actually only had 3 genres. Because I was really trying to crack down on the number of series I was starting. So it was only ones that I really felt like I had to read. There is the series length. 72% of them were trilogies. There is the favorite status. There is a good amount that I decided to DNF. There's 1 that I think is a favorite. There are 4 of them that I think could be elevated to favorites with future installments. 2 that I don't think are favorites, but I might continue on in, and 1 that I'm considering DNFing. Then there is whether I'm caught up or not. So there are 3 I DNF'd, 4 I'm caught up on, and 4 that I'm behind on. Then was the first book in the series published this year? 3 of the series that I started this year were the first book was published this year. Then there is the number I read in the series, and that is 10, of course, were just 1, and 1 of them I read 2. Then there is the finished series, so I finished 9, so let's look at this. There's the genres, there is the series length, and then the favorite status. So there was 1 series that I was even considering DNFing that I just decided to finish the last book. I believe that one was a duology. Then there is the unread and behind series. So this is my personal no excuse pile. These are the ones that I should be focusing on. There's the genre, so a lot of them are fantasy for me. There are the last year I read them before 2026. We also have the books behind publication. Most of them I am 2 behind. So usually those are like trilogies that I've only read the first book. We also have the favorite status. 1 of them I consider to be a favorite. 4 of them I think might be favorites, and 3 of them I think I might DNF. Then there is the DNF series. So there is 3 of them that I started this year, 3 of them I continue on this year, and the rest of them that I did not read from at all this year. Then there is the genre. Then there is the year last read before 2026. So there are 3 that I read in 2026 only, that I started the series. So that's 2026. So other than that, what year did they start? Then there is the total series length, how many books I am behind compared to the total series length. So 3 of them I was only 1 away, 9 of them I was 2 away, 2 of them I was 3 away, and 5 of them I was more than 4 away. There is the length of the series. So I DNF'd 11 trilogies, which is proportional, I think, to how many trilogies I was in the middle of. I didn't DNF any duologies because I was like, well, there's only 1 book left. I actually have now added some extra stuff. I did decide to add this continued series section, which now is the series that you read from this year, but did not start or finish this year. So like if you started a series and continued on, it's going to be in the started series section. And if you continued in a series so much so that you finished it, it's going to be in the finished series section and not here. The idea is this is the series that you were in the thick of. Like the other ones, it has genre, series length, favorite status, status of are you caught up, behind, or did you DNF it, the number you read in that series, and the year last read, and also this books left in series plan that we had in the DNF section. And I decided to add the books left in series plan to the start section. And to finish series, I added a couple things. Was the last book in the series a 2026 release? The number you read in the series to get to finish, and the year last read. So this could be a 2026. So by definition, this 2026 column is going to be empty for continued, but it is possible for you to have started and finished a series in the same year. Plenty of people do that, just not me. And then the last thing that I added was this unread behind own next thing. So basically the idea is Do you have any excuse? If you don't own the next book, you haven't read it and you're behind on it, chop chop. So that is all the things that I have added, and this is the final graph count. I believe there are 64 graphs here. I could be wrong and I don't feel like counting again. So those are all of my additions. And that is all of the things in my series spreadsheet. So if you were here for the stats, I hope you enjoyed hearing about what my reading was like. And if you're here for the spreadsheet, I hope that you got some inspiration or some clarification on whether you would like to have the spreadsheet or not. So thank you so much for watching. If you've watched this whole thing and don't have anything to say down below, I'd love it if you'd leave me a little graph emoji, because graphs are my favorite. I love stats. If you'd like to find me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me at the links in the description. And if you'd like to keep watching my videos, you can hit subscribe. I'd love to have you. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.